Here we go.
Yeah, so welcome everyone. We are having another of our Advanced Work Packaging Community of Practice webinars, and I apologize for the slightly late start. I was just meeting with the heads of all of the other Advanced Work Packaging Communities of Practice. Very interesting getting a meeting together when you've got at least 6 time zones involved, but the growth is definitely coming. So we have a great session today. Steve, can I get you to move to the next slide, please? So coming up in about a month, we have the European conference, and we have 3 days of content that's pretty amazing. Our first day is AWP fundamentals. The second day, we're going to be talking about AWP technology and data. And the third day, we're going to be talking about European-focused productivity initiatives. We've got probably 80 speakers and 4 tracks happening over the 3 days. And this is really going to be a step up even from the last conference we did in we've got Spencer Kelly, who's going to be one of our keynotes, and each of the 3 days we have a keynote session arranged. So strongly recommend you go to our conference website and take a look at all the speakers, all the companies, all the information. Steve, next slide, please. Okay, so one of the things that we found is when people come to the conferences, it really helps if you have a good background understanding of what advanced work packaging is. So we formed a strategic partnership with AWP University, and we've put together a series of instructor-led courses. They're all available if you follow the website link. And one of them is the fundamentals of advanced work packaging. The next one is on WorkFace planning. And then the third one is AWP for engineers. So check out the link, take a look at the courses, but typically these courses would be a couple of $1,000s if you took the online version, and they're being run for $250. So we were able to negotiate a really low price so that we could get the info out to people, and it's available through the link that you'll see when the presentation goes up. Now, let's talk about the session today. We've got Fernando, Espana, and we've got Nigel Harper, and they are both experts in lean, and Fernando is also an expert in advanced work packaging. They're both members of the new joint working group that CII has created on AWP and Lean, and they have lots of experience, lots of information. I don't want to take up any more of their time, so I'm going to pass it on to the two of you to do your presentation on AWP and Lean.
All right, thank you, Lloyd. Let me share my screen here.
And good morning from me as well. Morning from, or afternoon from the UK.
Yes. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, Lloyd, for the introduction. Yes, we are here to chat about AWP plus Lean, really looking at how we improve project delivery. That's our ultimate goal here. So hopefully everybody on in the call is excited about that prospect. So just to, we're going to go through a little bit of an introduction. I know that Lloyd just did the announcement. Talk about CWI's AWP plus Lean joint working group is the first part of what we're trying to do. And then chat a little bit about the Lean Summit coming up. And we're really looking for feedback from the audience to make sure that we're adding a lot of value when we actually provide that, we go to that summit. So a little bit about us. I'm Fernando Espana. I'm the president of ConstructX. I've been involved with Lean and AWP for a couple of decades now, at least. won't get into any more detail than that, but yeah, I've been around. I've seen the benefits of both. I've also seen the challenges of both, and we're really trying to accelerate that. As Lloyd mentioned, I am an active member of the Construction Industry Institute. I am a chairman of the Business Accelerator Group of the Community of Business Advancement, CBI, the CBA, and that is what we're trying to do is take these practices and drive their acceleration and use inside inside the various organizations that are interested. As well, we have started up underneath that committee this AWP plus Lean joint working group, because I personally feel very passionate about the fact that we're not looking deep into what AWP can do and also what Lean can contribute, and vice versa. You know, for those that practice Lean, how they can take advantage of advanced work packaging, which in my mind is a very lean approach as well. So yes, so that's a little bit about me. I don't want to take any more time. I'll pass over to Nigel to introduce himself.
Yeah, so my name's Nigel Harper, obviously from the UK. My background is project delivery, major project delivery, Terminal 5, Royal Opera House, British Airways headquarters in London. And I came across Lean about 20 years ago, working with Fernando and some of his colleagues, and implemented it on projects and in precast manufacturing facilities and elsewhere. And since then I've been hooked and now run as one of the partners our own business to help people implement Lean and also implement AWP to help make their projects and their programs run better and deliver better value. So that's kind of where we're from.
Yeah, and one thing I can say, I've known Nigel for, I don't know, Nigel, what, over 20 years now. It seems
too long.
Like, yeah, too long. But we've seen some amazing things happen, you know, over in Europe and also here in the United States. So very, very happy to walk through this presentation with you. All right. Also, at the end of this, we're going to have a lot of Q&A time. So please line up your questions. And I think there's a spot where you can actually submit your questions to us. Okay. So I think those of you that are in the AWP world, you've probably seen this curve about 1,000 times. But the reason it's being shown here is the fact that these types of methodologies that try to drive project delivery improvements and you know that result in less chaos in the field, more aligned engineering and procurement up front, has proven itself, right? You don't have to think very hard that if you're thinking about improving a project and you're going to employ Lean or you're going to employ AWP, you're going to get better results. Of course, it all depends on how you apply it, you know, how committed you are to really looking at within your organization and how you engage other organizations. But the fact is, it does work. And you know, the first time out, you learn a lot. But those that have stuck to it, as this maturity curve would show, are starting to drive, try to drive benefits. So, you know, you just, I don't want to say just jump in with both feet. It does take some upfront effort to really enjoy the benefits of either AWP or Lean. So I did mention the AWP plus Lean joint working group. There is a group of, I would say, a lot of global experts in this. Nigel and I are part of that. I am the co-chairman, along with some very well-recognized Lean experts in the field, including those many that are members of the Lean Construction Institute. So this is we're very excited. We just started this up, and I think that's what's going to drive solutions. That's our purpose, is to really apply both lean thinking and advanced work packaging methodologies and come up with maybe create the new next best practice, or at least drive innovation within organizations that are using either one or the other. So a little bit about the advanced work packaging production system, because I like to think of it as a production system, how we break down projects starting with the end in mind. And many of you may have seen this slide. We developed it, you know, several years ago to kind of help explain what it is. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time, but there's two key things that I'd like to at least point out. Is that yes, there is a production system in place. How we start parsing out the work and start defining the scopes of work into very location-based and geographically bound areas. You know, so we know we have to go from systems to locations. And we go through this extensive alignment that has to happen between engineering and procurement. And how that happens, of course, you really do need to understand what everybody does. But yes, so once we do that and we are in this readiness condition, we release. And of course, we have a lot of wonderful things happen. But I also wanted to point out the fact that we have to consider these 4 factors. And as Lean does, as everybody does, is people, process, technology, plus culture, right? We got to get that right blend. So how we enter the solution, is a fit for purpose endeavor that we need to recognize, and not that, you pull something off the shelf or you apply it and it's supposed to work, right? So there is a fit for purpose and strategic type applications that we need to consider. And just to give you a little bit of the detail as to why that is, and everybody that turns a wrench, everybody that issues a drawing, right? There are so many prerequisites, and if you've been in the lean world and you've mapped these, as we have in the advanced work packaging, you'll see they're quite complex. But it's a reality of the way we work, right? If we don't plan for understanding how big areas and smaller areas rely on the relationships between predecessor work and successor work, and really well define these, right? So we know what it is. I keep referencing the IKEA models or the Lego models, right? When we get down to that level, we understand it. And then how does engineering and engineering work packages contribute to the success of this? How does procurement work packages and the POs that are written contribute to the success of a construction work package, which might be one of 100, one of 1,000 elements of a project, right? And then, of course, we allow the foreman and general foreman to go build their work. So you can see there's quite a complex relationship that starts happening, and we can focus on any one of these, but we're really looking at optimizing the delivery of construction. So I'm not here to really teach everybody about advanced work packaging. A lot of you are already very aware of it, but we are looking to advance it. So I'm going to now let Nigel talk a little bit about lean project delivery.
Yeah, so I guess just to, again, with that teaching people to suck eggs, lean came about post Second World War in Japan, when they had a very difficult set of circumstances, and they realized how to make best use of the resources they had. And I guess we all associate lean, and certainly when I first got exposed to it, associate lean with automotive, aerospace, and kind of products and things that we don't generally come across in construction, i.e. we're fixed position, or they're fixed position manufacturing, and we're kind of building something that's in a specific geographical space. So as Fernando said earlier on, but the key tenets are, it really is a mix of people, process, technology, and culture, and doing things in a different way. And one of the things that underpins all these tools is the culture and creating the environment to do things differently. So you have to, when you approach things in a lean way, you have to have a different environment and a different mindset to actually want to unlock that waste, make things flow, and get those better productivity outcomes that are there to be got at. One of the key tools that underpins that is kind of the lean project delivery process, which is about bringing some rigor to planning and understanding at a strategic level, which we do ordinarily on projects, of the things that need to happen in the right sequence. I think you guys use the phrase path of construction quite a lot. And then converting that more with a lean perspective in terms of how can we make work ready, and how can we then go and execute work and understand whether we're doing a good job at that and improving as we go. So this whole idea of commitment management, which is the left-hand block, and unlocking constraints, that's kind of key to this. Make work ready so that when, if you think about it, we spend most of the money in construction with the guys at the work face. But actually the ability to influence is before we reach the coal face, before we reach the work face. So the guys in the office need to make the work ready for the guys out in the field to actually do and execute the work. So that unlocking of constraints and that commitment management is kind of key. Next thing is then actually measuring what we do in the field, not in an EVA type way, but in a kind of binary way. Guys, let's look weekly, daily at what we're going to go do, and let's understand, did we get it done or didn't we get it done? Let's make sure that our commitment is smart, and let's measure ourselves. And once we've measured ourselves, let's really understand how we're going to learn from that, and how we're going to actually improve in the way we go to work in the future. So it all sounds very simple, and it is profoundly simple. But what we see is before we implement these kind of tools and techniques, we see day-to-day reliability of around 53, 54%. So that's a group of people, a group of workers coming together with their supervisors and saying, okay, tomorrow we're going to get this done. And we're only achieving 53, 54% of that. When we implement this system in a robust way and actually learn from what we're doing, we see that picking up to 75, 80, 85%. And that means better productivity. It means more work getting done and better bang for your buck. So this is kind of this whole process of the long-term planning and understanding strategy where we're going, but then a much more rigorous approach to how we do delivery in the short term. We're going to touch on some other tools and techniques in the tool set a little bit later on, design for manufacture and pre-assembly and that kind of stuff. All things in the AWP world, people will be familiar with. But linking it to this whole process, this work planning process is kind of the key to getting the full benefits.
Yeah.
Fernando?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Nigel. And one thing I do want to emphasize is that there is a lot of commonality between the two. When we talk about readiness, constraint removal, I think the idea of commitment management is maybe missing from advanced work packaging in some respects at the rigor that Nigel described. So one thing we do know, though, as we look through, AWP has a long history. It's not something that just came out overnight, right? It started out, in early 1990s, and has evolved. Yes, there's been a lot of challenges, but there's no question there's been a lot of benefits. So the idea here is that it's not something new. It's been proven, and there's the way it's advanced. We are still continuing to advance, and we want to carry this forward into throughout 2020, the 2020s, and into the 2030s as some grand things, especially with technology that now is enabling so much more. And this is a little bit about Lean. So Nigel, you want to chat to this one?
Yeah, so again, as Fernando has said on AWP, in terms of Lean and Last Planner, the whole process has been around since the 90s. Particularly us in the UK, it was really driven to implement over here through Rethinking Construction. And Glenn Ballard and Greg Howell, who unfortunately passed away a couple of months ago, but those guys really drove this whole concept of how we can bring Lean tools and techniques across from a manufacturing, automotive, aerospace environment into fixed position work, which is what construction is, and how we can actually drive that waste out and make things robust. They've written a myriad of papers over the years, but I think there's been consistent improvement and development of the tool set and increased understanding of the types of things that can be done over the years and right up to current state, to where we're really, certainly over here in Europe, Last Planner is really now a very embedded concept, and you see it on most, if not all, the construction sites you go to on a day-to-day basis.
All right, thank you. One thing now, we'd like to take you through a few brief case studies. We're not going to do any deep dives, but just emphasize the applications. So this first, and this is about advanced work packaging. There's the business case for advanced work packaging. Some organizations want to have this established well in advance for their enterprise, and then launch on a pilot project. So they create the business case, confirm the value that it would add, and then put the program together to implement it. Portfolio projects, whether you're at a facility or you have a major building program, whatever your project portfolio is, large and small, you can apply this to, but it'll be a little different, right? Everything is a little bit nuanced to make it fit for the organization and the type of application you'd like, whether it's a single giga project, mega project, or a portfolio of large or small projects. In some cases with organizations that have corporate restrictions or just like to do bids, basically bringing this into the engineering sector and the procurement sector, and making sure that before you release anything, you've gone through the process of validating the AWP strategy and designing the packages and releasing them to a contractor that works against them has proven itself as well to drive benefit. So this is an instance of a power company. And in some cases where we have this blend of AWP and Lean, we can apply it to several different buildings. Sometimes that dials turn more heavily towards Lean versus advanced work packaging, but that's the opportunity that we have as an AWP plus Lean initiative, is that sometimes, and this was a hospital, they really need to complete a project, and sometimes you can smoke jump into a project that's in trouble and kind of calm the water, so to speak, and improve the outcome. In this case, 6 months ahead of schedule, or 6 months improvement in schedule, I should say that, which meant considerable revenue to this owner. And then, of course, civil infrastructure. How do we get it very early on thinking, and how do we build effective packaging strategies and assembly strategies? So a little bit of well in advance, prior to a project even hitting the detailed engineering, come up with a strategy that really drives improvement. And in this case, making a project that was not viable. So, and then getting buy-in from not only engineering, the owner, but also from the engineers, procurement folks, and contracting strategies, and also contractor involvement, which made it all real. So I'm going to now allow a little bit of a Lean case study. So I'll flip through these. Just tell me when to go, Nigel.
Okay, go. Okay, so I just picked 3 very different ones just to show you the kind of things and the kind of extent that we get involved in. This one is a project that hasn't hit site yet. It's a really exciting project. It's about actually taking tidal movements and converting them into power. So it's very green, very topical, I'm sure worldwide at the moment, certainly over here in the UK. But the business case for this only stacked up if we could get power onto the project in 3 years instead of 5 years. So the challenge we had was, how can we take a very, very large infrastructure heavy project and turn it into something that was actually deliverable in a much shorter time scale, because the time to get power on is really what drove the whole business case. So we helped the team come together and looked at what we call a Dfma approach, which is designed for manufacture and assembly. So basically our entire driver was to make the project go as fast as possible. And what we did was work with the supply chain to understand how we could modularize and pre-assemble their products and either float them in or bring them in by road and install them in position. And this was all the way down from the things you might expect to be modularized, like turbines, but also we actually ended up modularizing the main turbine housings, concrete turbine housings, and also did a lot of work on modularizing the bulk stuff, like the main rock and the rock armor. So how could we look at doing that in a different way? So it's a complete change of mindset. And what we were able to do was reduce the construction schedule by about a year, also driving down costs. So what we see, which is kind of counterintuitive, that when we modularize, obviously everybody accepts the fact that it goes quicker, but what we generally see is cost gets reduced, and we also generally see carbon gets reduced as well, because we underestimate the amount of carbon we spend on site actually doing works. So that's generally the thing we see across most of the projects. We also looked at it from a production management approach in terms of, okay, so we need to make this stuff as just in time as possible because it's big stuff and we can't have it lying around because it's going to take too much space. So we've looked at actually looking at the precasting facilities and even down to the quarrying facilities, and actually how can we streamline the supply of materials to site. So in the words of the Japanese, it does arrive at the right time and can be installed and in a continuous flow way. Okay, so that's the first one, Fernando. We go to the second one, please.
Okay, here we go.
So the second one, one of the partners in our business was, and one of the associates was involved in this Australian job, and effectively it's a water treatment plant. And this was kind of an unusual piece because there were 2 identical projects being built alongside each other. And the team we were involved in decided to deliver it differently. So again, there was a high reliance on design for manufacture and assembly and modularization, but also they focused a lot on flow and focused on how can we, because basically they call it, I think they call it fly in, fly out, where the labor force flies in for a couple of weeks, then flies out again to take a week off. And so to making the labor force as productive as possible whilst they're on site is a key attribute. So they looked at how they can actually just make the labor flow through the project, the different disciplines of labor flow through the project, and equalize the pace of work across the various disciplines. So there was a twofold approach. Let's modularize and let's pre-assemble, but then let's also look at this flow and make this as smooth as possible. They ended up achieving about 70% of pre-assembly, and then compared to their sister project, they were 37% quicker in terms of time. And again, incidentally, they saw reductions, significant reductions in the amount of resource they needed compared to their traditionally built twin next door. But also they saw a dramatic improvement compared to their twin in terms of incidents and accidents. And you know, it's kind of a given when you pre-assemble off-site, but they also saw big improvements in quality. So it really was kind of a win-win. Next one, please, Fernando.
Yeah. Okay. Running up a little bit on time, so go ahead.
Okay. So lastly, so we've gone from really big in terms of tidal lagoons to water treatment plant. Now we're down at quite small. So again, one of the partners in the business, or two of the partners in the business, were approached to help GSK develop a factory which they could deploy anywhere in the world to make pharmaceuticals in it's almost like a standalone facility that could be just flown in and erected and then dismantled when demand wasn't there anymore. So again, they adopted an approach around modularization and pre-assembly, but also the whole production management piece, the whole lean last planner type approach. How can we make this as efficient as possible and create as much flow as possible? And also kind of because you're potentially making these things in less developed parts of the world, like some of the parts in Africa, was how can we make it as mistake proof as possible? So it comes as a kit of parts, bagged and tagged. I think a lot of you guys call it an AWP, bagged and tagged and erected and installed in a quick, simple, modularized way. And again, what they saw was that, again, I won't go through all the benefits, but what they saw in their own minds, sorry, what they saw in delivery of the concept was considerable benefits in terms of what they achieved. So kind of three different case studies, from the very big to the more detailed, but all with the same kind of embedded tools and concepts built into the process.
I don't know if you wanted to speak to this one. Maybe John snuck this in on you.
Yeah, no, that's okay. This is kind of just John's excuse to get some advertising in, Fernando. So okay. Our business is about this whole integrated piece. And I'm not going to labor it, this is not a sales pitch today, but our business is about this whole integrated piece where we've experienced from front to back. But in true lean fashion, it's about understanding value from the concept of the client and then putting that at the heart of what we do in terms of process and in terms of understanding, so that we can then deliver the benefits that he's looking for. This is kind of some of the projects we've been working on.
It's kind of fun to see, you know, because Nigel and I worked on together on the Terminal 5 and St. Pancras Station. That was all exciting to see what was going on down there. All right, so that was a little bit about AWP plus Lean. We did want to briefly go through, we're going to hold this summit, AWP plus Lean Summit, that is going to be coming up sometime in mid-June in 2021. So we're asking the industry and participants to help kind of shape what that becomes. So we are assembling thought leadership in AWP plus Lean. We're putting together cross-industry representation for sure, both CII and non-CII members, which is really interesting for CII. They've kind of blessed us to move forward and look at the industry as a whole and grabbing experts wherever they might be in AWP plus Lean. And we're going to explore how these two methodologies are complementary and how your organization can benefit. So, you know, there's a couple of agendas. What we're proposing is really, okay, what is the goal? You know, improving project delivery really is the goal. making it real. What is the contracting strategy evaluation, and establishing a contracting framework that brings in all the stakeholders together, and as well as the organizations that are involved, the owner organizations, the engineering, everybody. So, and then the machine. There's a lot of standardizing and productization efforts, like you just heard about Dfma, but also that's going to be key as to how do we make things more efficient. So we're focusing on design and delivery, Dfma and modularization, looking at the similarities and the differences, and the opportunity. What is the opportunity for the different organizations and the different industries? So get ahead, stay ahead. I mean, it's coming, and you can see there's a lot of great things going on in the world today. So you can be a passive participant, and then it's going to hit you in the face and says, I better get on board, or you can be proactive about it and get your organization prepared because the industry is moving so quickly. We're trying to get a lot of detail inside it all. So not only what is AWP, what is lean thinking, and share those things. Contracting strategy in terms of conventional cases, how do we apply it in traditional sets and approaches? How can we drive collaboration, and what does that toolkit look like? And then, of course, the machine, function, form, value, adaptation, fit for purpose, delivering faster, which is to us time to value, not throwing more resources at it. And then, of course, the opportunity. So with that, I think we're on target now to take a few questions. And Lloyd, I don't know if you wanted to add anything more to the AWP plus Lean Summit before we jump into Q&A.
It works even better when you take yourself off mute. No, I think you did a great job. We're going to be announcing the team, but we're going to have world-renowned experts from North America, from Europe. We're going to have people from all sorts of different industries. The goal of the summit is really to get the discussion going on how to get immediate benefit to our projects. So it's not a research summit, it's a implementation and execution focused summit. Lots of examples of where this has been used, what kind of benefits we've gotten out of it, and how the two systems combined can get us even better results than if you just use Lean or you just use AWP. So I'm very excited about the event. We've got some questions. Let me lead off with the first one, and it's from Ivan. He's saying that thank you for the presentation. I believe most can agree that the value of on the value that AWP delivers. In my experience, however, much of the value is related to the contract strategy and less on the value it can potentially deliver to a capital project. What are your thoughts? So I think, Fernando, you could probably start off with that one.
Yeah, thank you for that question. And you're right. Well, let me preface that. There are several case studies and that have been out there that prove that the actual project itself will receive significant benefits. When we look at productivity improvements in some of the cases of the owner business of the contractors, reaching 20% to even in some cases 80% improvement in productivity, we know that it's quite effective on the projects. And it does depend on the application and the discipline that is applied to the program. How well is that program defined? How well was the education and awareness program and the onboarding of contractors? And yes, contracting strategy is absolutely important because it drives. If you don't ask, you don't get, right? And we know that good paper makes good friends, so to speak. So the fact is, yes, we do need to have a contracting strategy in place. The contracting requirements between different groups, owner groups, to EPCs or general contractors to their subcontractors, they need to be aligned, and we call it there's a contracting quilt to be made, making sure all the contracts between folks are not conflicting with each other. All right, because we need to drive that those optimization efforts, right? There are trade-offs to be made. Hey, if this process, as Nigel showed, if you're going to do this process, it's going to impact somebody else, and it's going to cost them a little bit more money, but it's going to save a significant amount of money over here. So what mechanism, what vehicle allows that trade-off if it's going to happen? So in a contracting situation where people can come together, they'll see the win-win. I've been in this business too long where if you don't go through that process and people don't realize that, hey, there is a better way to do that, even if it takes me a little bit longer, boy, I'm still going to get benefits. So yeah, contracting strategy important, but if you're not getting benefits out of the project, I think that's just the opportunity to dig a little deeper and find out why that's the case, because it should be driving benefits down there, and it might just be misalignment between how you're releasing engineering to construction, readying it, removing constraints. Because what happens in the field, sometimes a lot of people will say, oh, yes, we're going to follow that. But as soon as the project starts, throw that out the window. We're just going to do it the old way. So
Okay, can I build on that, Lloyd and Fernando?
Yes, please do.
So there's a couple of things I'd add. We're all engineers, and certainly I am, and I know Fernando is, and we love talking about tools, techniques, and engineering stuff. But actually, the biggest single thing we can probably do is create the right environment for our projects and the ability for people to work collaboratively together. Even simple things like co-location. We see it a lot over here where we're co-located. We're much more effective. Mixing of teams, so teams focused around geography rather than focused around discipline. You know, those simple things are hugely important and oftentimes don't need the contract to actually make a difference. The other thing I'd say is that certainly over here in the UK, we use a contract called the NCE contract quite a lot, NEC, sorry, contract quite a lot, which really encourages collaboration and encourages upfront early involvement, and I think that's critical as well.
Yeah, and exactly, and I did show briefly that hospital example, and that was a case where we had folks on the job that supposedly were big experts, and the practice was just non-existent. So putting some discipline in drove real benefits in the project. So you don't drive 6 months improvement when you're stepping in and the world was, you know, looking really grim. They were losing a month every month. That's the reality of it.
Yep.
Wow. We've got actually a number of questions that have come in. So let me go to the next one. The question's from Michael, and he's saying, do the quoted safety statistics take into account safety performance of prefabrication, pre-assembly, modularization, as well as site construction teams?
Yes. Yes, is the simple answer, yeah. So we have to look at it end to end, obviously, so yeah.
I think a better job can be done for that, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely scope for improvement, but I think the fact you're taking things into if you're modularizing and pre-assembling, the fact you're taking things into an offsite, you know, generally covered environment that you can control in a much more factory-like way creates better culture, creates better safety outcomes. That's what we see.
So I'm just going to ask a question here myself. I know with AWP, we've seen jobs with millions of man hours where there's been absolutely no safety incidents at all. Is it similar in the lean area?
I think, being honest with you, construction, you know, I will be honest, and don't quote me on the facts, but they're there or thereabouts. I think construction in the UK has the most fatalities as an industry next to agriculture. So we're getting better, but we're still not where we need to be. And I think what we recognize is, and what the industry over here recognizes generally, is that most of the causes of the accidents are process and planning related. So all the stuff that we've talked about is about improving process and improving planning. So QED, that means you improve safety. And I don't think you can do enough planning or enough process work personally to improve safety outcomes.
And I do remember, Nigel, on T5, you had a big sign above, everyone walked in, you know, million man hours without a lost time incident, and it kept growing. So
yeah, I think to be honest with you,
very
Lloyd, there's a lot. Sorry, I think to be honest with you, Lloyd, there's a lot to learn. Of construction, there's a lot to learn from the industrial space, certainly in terms of their culture and their outlook to safety is better than general construction in my experience.
Right.
Oh, that's great. So there's another question here, maybe a little bit controversial. Do CII have plans to evaluate AWP fit integration with production management systems?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, the AWP plus Lean group, that is on our menu. We are when we talk about lean thinking, we are considering production control, production management, batch size. I think that's all open. So yes, we're not when we say lean thinking, we're not limiting ourselves just to what we know today as advanced work packaging, what we know today as lean construction. But what also has been proven in many other areas, which is production control. And Nigel is, as you saw in the title down there, he's a production control expert, and I've spent a lot of my years early on in production control and management as well. So I understand, inventory management, and so does Nigel. How do we leverage technology? We want to explore all these, and so we're not excluding anything. We want to be as open and in looking at those types of improvements for sure.
Perfect. So there's another question here about the fact that AWP is used primarily in the industrial space. How can it be applied to other industries, or can it be applied to other industries?
Yeah, that's a very true statement. And lean has its own entry points for the most part. In the United States, one versus in Europe, applied more rigorously across different spaces. But AWP did get its start in in the industrial space, oil and gas, process, and during those implementations, everybody's kind of shied away from certain other trades, like, well, how do we touch electrical instrumentation? What about these buildings? And we've been able to show that yes, we can apply to all sorts of structures. Now, the effort that we're making and the applications across industries that we apply this blend without having to say it, because sometimes there are camps. There's no question that there are people in the lean world that say advanced work packaging doesn't work, and advanced work packaging folks that say lean, that's not for us. But this is the blend. So yes, we are actively driving this into other types of industrial industries, industries that are civil infrastructure, healthcare, and general building. I mean, all can apply. It just will be applied a little bit differently, like I said, fit for purpose. And it will be a blend between AWP and lean.
So maybe to build on that, what I see coming the other way is certainly we're currently working on a large nuclear project here in the UK. There is massive opportunity for AWP to be implemented in the nuclear space, certainly in that environment. And also we're working on a couple of large developments at the moment that are mixed use in terms of retail, residential, commercial space. And again, we see massive opportunity to bring that structure of AWP and that discipline to help drive better outcomes on the projects.
Great. So seeing a lot of announcements around infrastructure-based projects coming up as a result of COVID and as a way to restart the economy. Can AWP and Lean be applied to public projects like that? And what are your thoughts?
Can I?
I think Nigel, you start with this one because he is applying it in public spaces.
So over in the UK, there's a couple of big public bodies who are front and center in terms of applying this approach. So the Highways England is one who manage the road network in England within the UK, and they've been doing lean type work for probably 10 years. I've been working with them. Then the whole production management piece and the whole looking at the way they maintain their roads and become more efficient, and the way they build their new roads and their new assets. And a lot of the road building they're doing is effectively widening roads rather than building new ones. So it's how they can actually make that more efficient and effective in a live environment. So yeah, that program's been running for 10 years. I do a lot of work, or have done a lot of work until recently in the water sector, with Anglian Water in particular, who a big region in the east of England here, implementing lean tools and techniques with those guys. And they've seen dramatic developments in dropping the cost of their construction, and also because there's huge pressure on these public bodies, dropping their embedded carbon use, and also their construction carbon. So yeah, it's happening over here already in that respect.
Yeah, and it really, you mentioned it earlier, that Rethinking Construction, when that was published in 1997 or so, just got the whole industry, government, public side, just starting a movement to driving that improvement, and how these contracting strategies, which will be important for us, in the public sector, especially in North America, is what do those contracting structures start looking like? How do we engage folks, whether we're in a design, bid, build environment, or an early contractor involved environment, or an integrated approach that can be applied to the public spaces through competitive bidding, where these rules are in place. But I would say the Europeans are definitely well ahead of us in applications to applying this to the public environment, and there's a lot to learn from that. And our hope is that we will drive that. There's a significant amount of interest. We've already taken it to some civil infrastructure, and started a lot of conversations with a lot of public works folks that are very interested in driving this forward. So we just need to sort that out for ourselves. But absolutely, there's no question, because hey, the private space are big. Some of these corporations, they have their own governance policies that they have to abide by, and they all, again, it goes back to that fit for purpose. They have to take these two concepts and say, well, how is this going to work in my facility? I have these governance rules I have to apply. So yes, big opportunity, needs to be explored, and we shouldn't be afraid of the fact that, oh gosh, we have this design, bid, build thing that we have to go through, and competitive.
I think as well that one of the key drivers over here is accountability. So we're all taxpayers, and we're all contributing to the public infrastructure, and we want to see bang for our buck. And I think that's what's driven a lot of the approach over here, is the ability for people or the bodies to turn around and say, we're implementing this stuff, and look what it saved us. It means we can either give you money back, or we can build more asset for the same money. I think that's a pretty powerful message for public bodies to be able to demonstrate.
Oh, that's great. Another question is around how supply chain is addressed in AWP versus how it's addressed in Lean. What's the similarities? What's the differences between AWP and Lean's approach to managing the supply chain?
Well, I'll start out. I mean, it varies, considerably on the approach. If you're very early on and you can form a dedicated supply chain, that supply chain can become integrated. They can align their contracts, and they can also, do the trade-offs early on between what will advance the project. So that this integrated team becomes an advocate for the project rather than, tend to sub-optimize themselves. So the supply chain becomes more engaged in both Lean and advanced work packaging. In the case of advanced work packaging, for instance, we have these big collaborative sessions to define the path of construction and refine it over and over. And then the supply chain is handed a lot of documents and information to start building packages in the field. And so there's an integration process that happens there. How well it's done, of course, I think everybody's on a journey. There are challenges with that, but the advanced work packaging is designed to engage the supply chain as much as Lean in many respects. But I think Lean has a little bit different spin on that, on how they design these integrated forms of agreement and contracting strategies. That I think this blend of how we approach both will drive huge contributions to how we improve our project delivery processes.
I think my build on that would be around I'm not very good at diplomacy, so I'll just say it out straight. You need to get down to the guys doing the work. So typically over here in the UK, we either procure through a main contractor who generally isn't doing self-delivery. He's employing other trades underneath him to do the work, or a construction manager who's basically a consultant to the client who's managing the trades. You have to get to the trades. They know how to build things. They know how much it takes in terms of resource and equipment and safety criteria and the rest. And you have to have that knowledge engaged in helping plan, design, and do all the things you need to do to have a successful outcome to your project. So it's critical that you engage the people doing the work. That's
yeah, and that actually is part of the challenge, because folks in the boardrooms don't want to give up control on certain things, which they have to some respect, if they want this betterment to occur across their projects. So yeah, how are we going to engage the supply chain needs to be a key factor in how we design the advanced work packaging program to move forward.
Great. So I think we got time for one more question. Where should I go to learn more about AWP and lean practices? So I'll throw that to both of you.
Okay. Well, again, I'm quite active in CII, and there are several areas to learn. You can join conference. There's conferences coming up. I told you one, but Lloyd's got several organized, and so does CII have several organized around advanced work packaging just by itself. And we're actually now integrating a lot of the concepts, and Lloyd probably can talk about it a little bit in this regard as well. But AWP plus Lean is now becoming a topic in these conferences and these summits. And you can go to the CII, into the CII website if you remember. The COA in Canada has a huge amount of information about advanced work packaging. The lean construction industry, maybe I should let, I know of two, LCI, which has also a librarian, and the International Group of Lean Construction. Both are a wealth of knowledge on applications. Some a little bit more theoretical than practical in some respects, but it's out there, and how you can apply these to the different your different situations is something that you'll find huge benefit in. And of course, we're here as well, so you can always reach out to myself, Nigel, Lloyd, and a few others if you need to learn more. Nigel, you want to add to that?
I can't add anything. That's perfect.
Yeah, and it really is amazing what's out there right now in terms of information. Like I said, this is not new. Yeah, the applications and the variants of applications, could be dizzying in some respects. But I believe these conferences, we get down to brass tacks in a way. Okay, here's what it is. Here's what it can do, and leaving. We really want the audience to walk away and says, yeah, now, that was just not entertaining. Now I have a real clear idea of how I can apply this to my business. That's what we're trying to reach. So
yeah,
no, I don't know if you want anything, because you've got you lead a lot of these conferences. And
well, no, I appreciate that. One of the things that we've been finding is a number of years ago, if you went to a conference, it was about, well, this sounds like a good idea, you should probably check it out. Now we've got a track record. It's been used globally, it's been used effectively, and I'm talking about both AWP and Lean. And so one of the biggest benefits of getting together with your peers, even if you're doing it virtually, is being able to talk to them about, well, what have you tried? What's worked? What hasn't worked? And I would say, however you do it, get out and talk to practitioners, because there's great resources available through CII and COA and others. But actually talking to people about how they did it and the challenges they had, that's probably the biggest value. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're really fortunate to have Fernando and Nigel. They're not just talking about the theory of, they've been in the trenches, they've worked with this. And for the summit that's coming up, we're going to have people probably from the Navy, probably from a whole bunch of different industries that have been doing this and applying this globally on different types of projects. And I think that's where you get the biggest benefit, is when you can talk to people who not only have similar experience to you, but also the ones that have differing experience. So we've hit 9:30. We'll send this out to you. We'll update the information on the courses, but I want to thank everybody for coming, and I want to thank our two speakers for doing a spectacular job presenting. So everyone be well, be safe, and we'll talk to you all soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.